Microsoft Project has an enormous number of fields that you can simply add and use to whatever purpose you like. If there's some information that you think is important for storing, you can create and customize your own field. And so in Project, to do that, you can right-click any heading and choose Custom Fields. If you've not customized any fields, you will just see generic fields showing up now. There's 30 text fields that you can customize. There are 10 cost fields that you can customize. All of these have no information in them. There's 10 date fields, 10 duration fields. There are 10 finish. A flag field is a yes/no field, and they give you 20 of those. Those are characteristics that either exist or don't exist with a particular task. Number, there's, I believe, 20 number fields that only allow numbers. There's start fields, and as we saw, text fields. These are just associated with tasks. There are similar fields for resources as well. You can customize away. I'm going to start with task, do a relatively simple one. Now, you probably want to change the heading. Text 1 doesn't really describe what's going in here. But a very common thing that people often do with custom fields is they want to describe an issue that might be happening with a particular task. So I'm going to do that with text 1, but I'm going to rename it issue. And when I OK it, I now see that this field actually could be referred to as text 1 or issue. And when I OK it, it will not show until I add it. So I'm going to add this field, issue. And if there were an issue with one of these tasks, there is a problem here. I could record that directly into the issue table, and maybe our code isn't working, and so developing the code is going to be a problem. And I want to record that in the issue. So I would do that task by task, potentially. But how big of an issue is it? Well, I could create a field that describes that. And so I'm going to create another custom field, right-click, custom field. This, I'm not going to use text 1, already have that, want to keep that. This is going to be text 2. I will rename it, and I'm going to say issue size, let's say. Now, instead of just having people type something in, which could lead to different ways to describe it, I'm going to make it just 3 choices: small, medium, or big. And so that can be done with a lookup. This will now show up in a little listing. The order can be whatever I like. I type my values in different rows. If they're not in the right order, I can select and move up or down. But if I close this and OK it and add it as a column, I'm looking for issue size now, I have the ability to, on these issues, select a size. And this is maybe a medium one, but this one's a large issue. Now, in addition to a drop-down, you can also add a graphic. You can add smiley faces. You can add all sorts of things instead of the actual text. You'll still see the text in the drop-down, but we're going to customize this particular custom field. Right-click Custom Fields, selecting that issue size, but I'm going to choose Graphical Indicators. And for issue size, when the cell equals small, there's an image that I can choose. And there's a number of these images. And maybe that's a smiley face, a yellow smiley face. But I have two other issue sizes that might be more of a concern. So if it's medium, it's a little, let's do a blue neutral. And then we'll end with the large issue. And that's going to be a red frowny face. And when I OK it, they will automatically get changed. If I am selecting, I see the text, but when I select it, I get those graphics instead. Now you can also do custom formulas with custom fields. So let's give you an example of that. A very common example of this is I want to see tasks within a certain range, maybe in the next month or so. And instead of me having to figure out what's a month from today, I'm going to have a field that figures that out for me. It's kind of a complicated formula, but once you get it done, you don't have to think about it in the future. So this is ultimately either going to be 1 month into the future or not. And so this is going to be a flag field or a yes/no field. So I'm going to switch my custom fields to flag, and I'm going to rename it. How about next month task? Question mark. Is it within the next month? Well, this one is going to be a formula. And it's going to be an if formula. If you're familiar with this from Excel, it's very similar. Instead of you having to type it, though, you can choose function. Function shows you the functions, and the if function is actually spelled with 2 I's in a Microsoft project. It stands for immediate if. You need a condition, and then what happens if it's true, and what happens if it's false. Well, what happens if it's true, because it's a yes/no field, is going to be yes, and yes goes in double quotes. And what happens if it's false is going to be no. But our expression, that's the part that's harder. So we need to basically figure out the next, let's say, 30 days. And so that's going to be using fields, date fields. And again, instead of me having to remember how they're spelled, I have a little help by going into field, date, and then choosing start. If start, let's say, greater than, equal, and then I'm going to go into function, date time, and it reminds me that now is the function that keeps track of what today's date is. So the start has to be greater than equal to now, greater than equal to right now. And so if I left it at that, it would just be future tasks. I need it in the future, but only 30 days into the future. So I'm going to add a start less than equal to now. And this time I'm just going to type now in, now that I see how now works. Now has parentheses, just like equals now is typed inside of Excel to get today's date. So the start has to be less than or equal to now plus 30. And that's going to restrict it. Future, but only 30 days into the future. When I OK, it's a little concerned that any existing data in this field will be lost. Well, nothing was in this field, so we're not losing anything. Do you want to replace it? Sure. It has now been created, but it's not displayed until I add it. And so if I look for next month task, I should be seeing some no's, but some yeses. This one that is occurring in the next month has a yes, as well as any others that are occurring in the next month. Custom fields, you can go in any direction you like. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of possibilities.